All right. We are going to get some things kicked off here with some words of wisdom, or what might be the lack of wisdom. Here we go. This is an article that came out recently. It says, Elon Musk, robots will take your jobs. Government will have to pay your wage. Let's go ahead and read this article a little bit here. It says, computers, intelligent machines, and robots seem like the workforce of the future. And as more and more jobs are replaced by technology, people will have less work to do and ultimately will be sustained by payments from the government, predicts Elon Musk, the iconic Silicon Valley futurist who is the founder and CEO of SolarCity, Tesla, and SpaceX. According to Musk, there really won't be any other option. There's a pretty good chance we end up with a universal basic income or something like that due to automation, says Musk to CNBC. Yeah, I'm not sure what else one would do. I think that is what would happen. Inspiring, isn't it? So if you're not familiar with what a universal basic income is, it is the idea that says, since all of our jobs are going away, every individual will have to be given a basic allotment of money to survive on. Basically, someone or something or some agency is going to pay everyone not to work so that technology can take their place in the workforce. And let me just share a quick observation about Elon's statement here. Elon is one of the foremost authorities, if you don't know, on technology, our future, and how automation is being implemented into our lives. He's one of the biggest influencers in us heading in this direction. But when he speaks on this particular topic, it never quite sounds to me like he truly understands human nature. Or he really has a genuine concern for what will happen to these billions of people when their careers vanish. But in many ways, I'm actually a huge fan of what Elon does. He does a lot of really great things, but when it comes to this topic, I don't agree with him. But of course, this is not just an issue with Elon Musk. This is an issue that is very close to home to all of us. And I need you to really understand the brevity of what I'm talking about. We're not talking about a job going away and a person trying to find another job in that field. We're talking about an entire field being wiped out within months. That person has nowhere else to go within that trade of work. It's gone for them. So this is something that's very real right now. A lot of people think this is the future. We're talking about in the next 3 to 10 years, this is going to be happening, waves of jobs vanishing. And if you didn't know, there are lists out there that will let you know which careers are vanishing first, so you can actually see when your job's going away. It's very exciting, very motivating stuff. I'm happy to announce that clergy is actually the last thing on the list, so we're pretty safe. Pretty cush, so this is your problem, not ours. No, but seriously, you can actually look at these lists and it'll tell you, and you'll be surprised to find out, primarily it's driving jobs are going first. Those will be taxi cab drivers, Uber drivers, that'll be truck drivers, these sorts of things will go first. And believe it or not, next in line is lawyers and doctors. Who surprisingly is supposed to be the next to be replaced by automation. So think about that for your next checkup. All right. So this is very close to home. Last year, I was speaking to a young man who's being groomed to take over his father's business. And we were having conversations about the future and his business and whatnot, and he actually told me he couldn't wait until automation came into their company so he could get rid of all of their employees. He said they are slow, inefficient, and too expensive to take care of. So I asked him, where will they go when you get rid of their entire career? And he said, they will get paid to stay home. He was perfectly okay with that. So I said, are you going to pay them to stay home? And he said, no, the government will, with a basic income. Which prompted me to respond, and might I ask, who is going to give the government the money to pay for people not to work? You can't tax the people to fund the government of a government that is paying people that are then being taxed to fund the government. Said so, and if you as a business owner don't want to pay these people to sit home, where does this money magically come from? Well, that's not really my topic for today, so I want to get off that for a minute, because there are giant economic issues with this concept, but this is a very real concept that is being put into place as we speak right now in different parts of the country and the world. So it is, of course, a huge concern that we should all be thinking about. If you haven't heard about it, you should probably get up to speed. But I want to talk about the topic that is largely being avoided in this whole conversation, and that is this. What will happen to humanity when you take work away? I'm not talking about what will happen to their income. I'm talking about what will happen to humanity and humankind. What will happen to us physically, mentally, and spiritually when work is taken away? This is something that humanity as a whole has never experienced before on this planet. Think about that. In the next 2 decades, we'll create something that has never happened on this planet. What happens to us when we don't have to work anymore and we have all this time on our hands? Well, I have a prediction and a foresight into the future, which we can see. I predict this will be our future. If you don't notice, this young gentleman has a very similar look to my brother and I. So this could be the future of Unity. I don't know. No, actually, when I think about this topic of time on our hands and what's going to happen, this is what really comes to mind. An idle mind is... Who believes that statement, that concept? More people at the first service were willing to admit that they believed in that concept. Now, for some of you, your first reaction might be to think, in Unity and on the spiritual path, we are working towards quieting the mind. So in that sense, isn't an idle mind the goal where we're trying to get to? So I want to clarify this with this analogy. Suppose you have a car that is sitting empty in a parking lot and idling. It's on, it's idling, it's just sitting there empty in a parking lot. In this situation, anyone at any time can jump into this car and speed it in any particular direction without any reason or motivation. That is akin to an idle mind, where there is no control over the mind. Any thought, conscious or unconscious, can send a person racing in any direction. And as we know in Unity, the lower limited ego nature tends to speak loudest and first. So an idle mind is often driven by that lower nature, which we get the saying, the devil's workshop. So, on the flip side, what we seek in spiritual practice would be more like a parked car, completely turned off, with you sitting in the driver's seat, holding on to the keys. And it can't, and it doesn't, start or move until you decide where it is going, and when you decide it will be the right time. No errant thought or subconscious impulse can throw you racing in a direction, because you have reclaimed control of your mind. Your mind is not idle. You are in the driver's seat. So here is a really fundamental issue I think we are dealing with here today that we're not necessarily willing to admit. But in our society, we have come to the conclusion that work is no good. No good. People actually refer to it as having a J-O-B. Has anyone ever heard someone say that? Raise your hand. Have you ever heard someone say my J-O-B, referred to their J-O-B? As if a job is a horrible condition you contract, like jobs have gone airborne like a virus, and they're infecting people all across the United States with this J-O-B syndrome. We have vilified the idea of work in our society, and we've made hating work a part of our everyday culture. It's cool to hate your job. But here's the kicker. The average person will actually spend 35% of their life at work. And what a waste if you spent that time hating it, loathing it. 35% of your life, which leads me to this cartoon. It says, no one ever said on their deathbed, I wish I had spent more time at work. But that's the concept that we've associated with work, that it's this horrible bad thing that we'd never want to have looked back on and said, I worked a lot, or I enjoyed my work, or that was valuable. So our society has built up this idea that work is no good. And by doing so, a large portion of our lives is spent in the stress that surrounds doing something that we have decided we don't like, or we despise, or we loathe, or we can't stand. So then it becomes really easy to sell us on the idea that we should find a way out of work. How many industries are out there designed to help you find a way out of work? Find a way to stop working altogether. Back in my days of real estate investing, I went to a lot of seminars to learn how to do it right and how to negotiate things. And every seminar was based on the concept of creating passive income so that you could finally stop working. Get rid of that J-O-B, they would say, and the room would chant it together. Get rid of that J-O-B, because then you'll finally become free. Part of the American dream is early retirement. The sooner you stop working, the better. Right? Isn't that what we're told? Work on that early retirement. Well, that may not be the reality of what has been sold to us. Did you know that retirement is the 10th most stressful thing that can happen to a human being in their lifetime? Statistically, it's the 10th most stressful thing that could ever happen to you. Do we often talk about that? Get to that retirement, and you're just going to be so stressed out of your mind. It'll be amazing. I know in first service, a few retired people looked at me when I said that, and they're like, yeah, that's true. The 10th most stressful thing. And as we know, stress is the root of so much illness. So this is actually from, not quite there, quite here, verywellhealth.com. This is an article talking about retirement, and it says, in one of the most well-done, statistically speaking, studies of retirement and health, researchers found that retiring had a negative impact on health. It found that the retirees had 51% increase in the risk of death after controlling for things such as wealth, education, marital status, etc. I think many of us have probably actually seen this to be true in our own lives. When someone stops working, their health begins to fail. Has anyone else noticed that? Or if someone loses their job, their health begins to fail. Young or old, the mind and the body react to no longer working. And did you know that the concept of retirement didn't even come into existence until just a little over 100 years ago? This is from Harvard Business Review. It says, yes, back in 1889, German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck invented the idea of retirement, establishing the concept for the rest of us. Those who are disabled from work by age and invalidity have a well-grounded claim to care from the state, he said at the time. But even Otto's original intent for retirement was only for those who were disabled from work by age and invalidity, not for those still able to work. In fact, this article goes on to say that in Okinawa, Japan, people live the longest and the healthiest of anywhere on the planet. And not only do they not retire, they don't even have a word in their language to convey that concept. So what is my point here? I'm by no means trying to put a negative light on retirement or people that are no longer working. My purpose here is to establish the value of work in our lives. This concept of trying to get out of work has spread like wildfire throughout the United States. My generation and the generations below are really grabbing hold of it, and the goal of life has become, how do I not work? Not how do I succeed at work, how do I get to a place where I don't have to work as quickly as human possible? But if it is potentially harmful for us to stop working, then don't you think this is worth looking into? Maybe there is something good and healthy about work. Well, our co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore, who's our co-founder of our movement, there's a book that has compiled letters she sent back to people who inquired her about different Unity principles and teachings and how she healed herself. So this book is all of her responses in those letters, and this is one of those. She said, if sometimes you find yourself doing work that isn't supposed to be desirable, remember that there are other good folks doing the same sort of work, and that still others would like to be doing it, even though circumstance have placed them at something else. The interesting thing is, we know when we do work we hate, it can lead to illness and a poor quality of life. So Myrtle is pointing out here, work you find undesirable is really just a state of mind. Other people are doing that same work, and they're enjoying it, and even other people are looking at the work you're doing and wishing they could get paid to do what you are currently doing. The only thing that makes it undesirable is our perspective and how we approach the work that we do. It's not the job itself that is undesirable. So she continues on. She says, whatever you undertake, do it the very best you can. Show the Father that you are ready to do your best, and He'll keep increasing your ability and will place you where you will be blessed and where your work will bless others. And now we get to the heart of the matter. Our work is not just about us. It's about all of us. It is about the collective. Service and serving others might be the most important aspect of work that we often fail to remember or even realize. This is how it was put by the Guru Yogananda. All material work is service to your fellow beings, if done in the right spirit, and is therefore worthwhile. You see, we have this misconception that on the spiritual path, you're supposed to drop out of society and go hide in a cave somewhere and figure out your spiritual program. Yogananda and many other spiritual teachers, like we do here in Unity, talk about, no, you don't get to run from life. Your spiritual work takes place right here where you are, in your job, with your family, with your community. This is where you grow spiritually, this is where you evolve, this is where you become enlightened, and this is where you stay to help lift other people up as well. Work is service to others no matter what kind of work it is. But it is the way we work and the mindset we hold about work that is the key. One of the most important spiritual practices on the path, or even for those not on the path, is to serve others, to give of yourself to something bigger than yourself. It helps us connect, it helps us learn humility, and it helps us learn the power of giving. The universe is based on the power of giving. The universe is always giving to help us flow and move forward, and our responsibility is to learn how to flow with that and carry that giving on forward, to pay it forward. So in that sense, you have 35% of your life already dedicated to working on that one spiritual practice. That's something worth bragging about. Come on, you should be excited about that. You've already spent 35% of your life on that one spiritual practice. But when we make work just about money and fulfilling our own personal wants and needs and desires, we are missing the purpose of it. Consider for a moment how many times in life we looked for a job with the mindset of, what can I get? What can I get from this company? What can I get from this situation? As opposed to, what can I give? How could I use this particular company to give more and to reach more people? Regardless of what it is, whether we're creating paper, whether we're driving cars, whether we're picking up trash, whether we're running numbers in a database, how could I use this company to reach more people that I can help? If you shifted the way you looked for a job with that mindset, it's a totally different experience. I have done that. I actually consciously did that once in LA when I was looking for a job out there. I sat down and I said, this company needs me. to help them fulfill what they're trying to do. I went down, I sat down with that, and I said, they need me. I'm here to help them do that, and they're going to find out how much they need me in this interview. And the interview was the most amazing interview I've ever had. Because I knew I was there to help them do what they were trying to achieve, which is to reach more people. Ultimately, that's what any company is trying to do, whether they know it or not. So let's look at this from the New Testament book of Acts. Many people assume that Luke the physician is the one speaking here in Acts, but historians today are still not clear on who wrote the book of Acts. Either way, he's a very wise and beautiful individual, and this is what was said. You know for yourselves that I worked with my own hands to support myself and my companions. In all this I have given you an example, that by such work we must support the weak, remembering the words of the Lord Jesus, for he himself said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Do we show up to work with the mindset of being in service? Do we show up to work with the intent of trying to reach and help more people? What can I do today in this job to make more of an impact on humanity? Regardless of what the job is, because I hear people say all the time, no, there are jobs like doctors and nurses that impact people. My job is mundane and it doesn't. That's ridiculous. I'm talking about the mindset you show up to work with, your perception of your position. Work is very valuable in this way. It puts us in a consistent cycle of service. It gives us purpose, fulfillment, direction, and ultimately a deep sense of value and accomplishment. So now I ask you, what happens if all of that goes away? Let's steer this topic back to the concept of automation replacing all of our human jobs and people being paid not to work. You see, the real issue is not how we come up with the money to pay people when their job and their entire career vanishes within months. As I see it, the real issue is, why are we letting companies dictate to us the kind of world we are going to live in? Why are we buying this spin campaign which tells us laying off billions of people is a good and necessary thing because progress is more important than people? Do we really believe an automated future is a better future? Do we really believe having all these things done for us is going to help humanity evolve and grow and expand? You see, for decades, our society has learned that if an idea is packaged well enough, we are going to buy it, even if it is to our own detriment. We have been sold on this idea that work is not necessary, and the sooner we're done with it, the better. Bring on the robots so that I can sit at home and just drown myself in digital distractions. And what makes me sad is that there is a belief among people I talk to that automation is already here, it's already coming, and there's no stopping it. So we might as well make our stand and embrace it and make sure we get our standardized basic income out of it. But here's an idea. How about we choose what we want for our future and stop letting corporations choose for us? How about we finally stand up for the person next to us who's about to lose their job to automation? Instead of just sitting back and assuming that someone else has figured out what they're going to do with this person when this person loses their job, someone else has figured out how to take care of them when their job goes away. Well, I hate to break it to you people, but there is no enlightened think tank that is designing our future with a master plan that has your health and your happiness at the top of the list above technological advancements. There's no think tank putting that together. The only people thinking about this in a very serious and concerned matter, recognizing how much of a pressing issue it is, are regular people like you and I sitting in this room today. So what does that mean for us? Real quickly, I invite you to look to your left, at the person to your left, if there is one, and then look to your right, at the person to your right. Go ahead and just glance around the room at everyone here. Now, if you are even remotely concerned about the welfare of those people you just saw, you will have to start making decisions to protect their future. You might be in a position where you don't have to worry about it. You might already be retired. You might be soon to be retired. You might have a huge savings. I want you to look around the room and say, am I even remotely concerned about the welfare of everyone else in this room? Because if I am, I'm going to have to start making decisions to protect their future. And then we could talk about the children, which is a whole other issue entirely. But perhaps if you still eat junk food, you could refuse to eat at places that use Flippy, the automated burger flipping robot. This is something we absolutely needed to have, right? Because remember, someone's livelihood actually depended on that job. Someone's family depended on that job. How about this? Self-checkout. At the grocery store, at Home Depot, everywhere else. First of all, why am I doing my own checking out when I'm buying your products? Bagging my own products at your store? What kind of customer service is this? When you go shopping, why don't you refuse the self-checkout and you demand they put a real human being behind that counter to help you? Even if there is a line there, take the time to stand in that line so they get the message, I'm not going to check myself out. I'm going to support this human being, hire another one, and open another line. How about this? The next time you fly, maybe you refuse the human microwave. Well, not there yet. And request an opt-out pat-down by a real human being. Did you know you can request an opt-out pat-down? Raise your hand if you knew you can request an opt-out pat-down. You have the right to request an opt-out pat-down by a real human being. And so I do that every time I fly. It takes only about an extra 5 minutes, and I get a free massage every time I go to the airport. So think about that. I actually had a TSA agent start to give me a lecture about the radiation in this machine is less than the radiation you're given the airplane. It started his whole spiel, and I've studied radiation. I'm a sound engineer. I know sound waves. And I said, let me stop you right there. The only reason I'm doing this is so that you keep your job. And he gasped and said, oh, thank you. How about this next one? You might even consider supporting your local business that employs real people to move inventory, instead of opting for that quick delivery from a business that has all but replaced humanity in its entire corporation. Not going to say who it is. You can probably figure it out. It rhymes with Cramazon. Now, you might think I'm anti-technology, but in fact, I am not. What I am is more for humanity than I am for technology. Technology has its place and can be a beautiful enhancement to life, because there's a situation at which time we're going to have to decide when enough is enough. Technology has done great things for us, but at what time do we say enough is enough? A device that can help someone who cannot walk again is an amazing miracle and a beautiful thing that I'm 100% behind. Then I will pay extra in whatever I do to help make that happen. But how does this image make you feel? I want to hear, how does it make you feel? It makes me feel a little bit sick in my stomach. I feel a little bit of sickness in my stomach to see this image. This isn't some future thing. This is today. That is a real picture of real children in someone's living room. And if this is your children, I apologize for offending you right now. If it makes you feel wrong when you see it, do you think that's a sign that there might be something wrong with it? Think about it. Who will say when enough is enough? Don't say I'm anti-technology. I love technology. But I recognize when we've gone too far. And we are now sitting right at that event horizon where we're running in the too far land. And who's going to say enough is enough? How far do we let it go? I don't believe in a future where we are replaced by automation and we exist only to consume the next device that is spit out by the machine. I believe in a humanity of humans helping humans. I believe that an enlightened human consciousness comes from people serving one another, not from us becoming more isolated and separated and segregated into our own little homes and pods or wherever we're going to wind up. I believe work is a powerful tool for growth and a necessary part of existence. And there's a timeless and simple Zen saying that addresses all of this. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Working in the world is just as much a part of life before enlightenment as it will be after enlightenment. Our work is service, and it honors others. It honors our fellow brothers and sisters, and therefore our work honors God. The universe rewards good work. Have you ever recognized that? The universe rewards good work. Raise your hand if you've recognized that the universe rewards good work. It does. And so it's time that we do two things, two simple tasks I'm giving you for this week and the rest of your life. One, shift our perspective about work. Two, stand up for humanity over progress. We do this even if that means sacrificing a little bit of our conveniences. And that is the truth as I experience it. Let's take this.